All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another YouTube video. As you can tell, I want to do another interview Q&A with one of my clients, and today I'm with Michael. Mike, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
I love it. I love it. So, for you guys that don't know, Michael is and was my first ever client doing one-on-one coaching. Before I did one-on-one coaching, I started a community, right, on School, Skool. And it was okay. It was called Mind and Muscle Society. And Michael here, he joined, and he helped me out so much. He was obviously the one that was in the community group chat aspect, the one talking the most, participating, asking me questions. And so obviously he was just a great asset, honestly, to have in there. And then one day, I believe, Michael, you just reached out to me on there and asked me if I offered one-on-one coaching. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
it.
Right. And you sort of put that idea in my head. Of course, I knew about one-on-one coaching a little bit, but I never really thought of it. I thought I was going to really be able to take this community off, and that's a good mindset to have. But as I look back, I see the kinks and the things that were not going to work out. So, but obviously, it brought me to where I am today, right? So I'm grateful I went through that experience. But obviously, with all that being said, Mike, he reached out to me on that community. He said, do you offer one-on-one coaching? I want to lock in on this and not just get the video help from you. I want, calls, check-ins, accountability from you. And so that's really where I started, right? And so before we get all into, me and Mike's work together, I want to just have you introduce yourself really, really quickly.
Okay. My name's Michael. By profession, I'm a university instructor or professor, and I'm also a board certified neurologist or physician in Indiana.
Love.
I live at Purdue and have spent most of my professional career in this neighborhood, but I did do my training back east in New York and Connecticut. Yeah.
Love it. Amazing. Amazing. And tell us a little bit about your past experience with working out, obviously, like before we started working together and everything like that.
All right. I Up to the pandemic, I had been probably the longest person that I know for my age group engaged in some form of formal head to the gym and working out. I won't claim since high school, but I'll definitely claim since college or med school. Consistent, and by consistent, I mean like 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week
Right.
for quite a while. And then, which might come up again in another question, we all hit the pandemic, and that put brakes on a lot of people in a lot of different ways. But I've always worked out in a university setting or in a professional gym, and it's just been a lifelong habit. To be frank, it's been an obsession with me. Yeah,
I was gonna say, I know
a
you.
way of life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I was gonna say, I know you love it, right? And that's really where we started to relate very quickly. We both had the same mindset. Um, and so that's obviously why we connected so well, right?
yeah.
Now, what about your past nutrition experience and knowledge in sort of that aspect with calories, macro and micronutrients and everything like that?
Okay, that's if there was a deficit, and from what I had picked up on my own, that's probably the single largest area.
Hmm.
I have always been a hard gainer. I think I've shared with you before, and I'll go ahead and share with
Yeah,
this for marketing. I mean, I only weighed 126 all the way through med school. So, the end of med school is 8 years of college already, and we're not even talking about residency after that. So, and on top of that, nutrition is probably, and probably still is, one of the least studied aspects of being a physician.
right,
So in terms of training, so
right.
that's probably the biggest area. The other area that kind of sought me to after the pandemic to look for somebody was probably just to catch up on what was current. There were over my lifespan, there's a lot more emphasis now on splits
Mhm.
and approaches instead of just going in and developing your own rhythm and what works for you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And tell us all sort of how you found me, right? Like I mentioned in the very beginning of this video, obviously we connected through that school community, right? But how did you even find, my Instagram page and obviously keep up with me and then eventually join that group chat or community?
Yeah. In part of that was thanks to my students, my first and second year students, because I was probably not all that aware of social media as an extensive source of fitness information.
Mm,
Um, the real story is that, like I said or alluded to earlier, the pandemic hit all of us. It hit families and people that ended up with COVID and the entire medical field. It was like a curveball that just kept growing and growing.
yeah.
And you don't have time for any outside activities. And afterwards, it was kind of like everybody was just looking up from what we call the trenches and, how are we going to get back to where we were? And
Mhm.
so my real driving motivation was just to get back into the gym. And as you may recall, I had been back probably a month by the first on my own. By the first time I began to find you on the internet, thanks to my students saying, these are the places to look, these are the things to look for, essentially. And so I did a fairly good search, I thought, and I had it narrowed down. But the problem is it's awful hard on the internet because there's not a two-way conversation
Right.
to really discover, what kind of leader, what kind of the word you use, coach someone is,
Mhm.
and how they're going to deal with things. And over time, I found out some of these guys run other businesses, like they're more concerned with selling clothing lines, or with getting discounts for supplements, and
The brand.
they had adventures. Um, some of them it's impossible to get a hold of or to get a response from. And so I'd say that the number one factor by the time I found Mind and Muscle, the first iteration of it, yeah, um, the thing that made you stand out as a future coach was simply your responsiveness. Okay. And it was very clear in what you put out. It answered my question, even without talking to you or joining M&M,
Mhm.
as I called it in the early days. Um, you put out marketing material or brand material that showed that you not only believed in it, you practiced it yourself, and you led in two ways. You led by example, and you led by instruction and information. So over time, it kind of, I belonged to both M&Ms, both iterations, and I wasn't getting anywhere with the other guys because they're just an extreme. You can find somebody that they want you to pay for them to fly to where you live and work over a weekend, and set up an extensive thing, or you get lost in this maze of, I don't know what to call it, negotiating with intermediaries before you even get to talk to them. And
Right.
they have all kinds of demands. So your availability, your responsiveness were probably the key characteristics. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate that. And that was going to be, one of my questions is what really made me stick out, so to say, compared to, like you said, just all of the other fitness coaches, fitness influencers that are on Instagram, right? There are so many. And so my question was going to be what made me stick out, right? But I think you answered it there, right?
Yeah.
Responsiveness, but also practicing what I preach. I think that is huge and what not enough coaches currently do now, right? There are some
Exactly.
great coaches out there actually, but I don't feel that they are showing what they do enough day to day. And that's just on a simple story post, right? You don't have to be actually posting a reel, but it can be a simple, quick story post of, yep, I just got my lift in. Yep, now I'm eating this. Now I'm going to do this for cardio. Now I'm going to do this before bed, and then I'm going to do this when I wake up. I think that's super, super important from a coach to obviously show everybody else, but also including your clients, what you are doing on a day-to-day basis. Um, Obviously, showing that before telling someone else what to do, if you know what I mean, right? I
Yeah.
think that's so important. So I appreciate you saying that about me, really. I also wanted to bring up this actually, I wasn't planning on this, but I want to talk a little bit about your students, right? I think it's so cool the relationship you have with them because I remember currently right now, everyone, I'm on a summer break, right? So I'm not in school, but during the fall and spring seasons, of course, I'm in college. And I post a little bit here and there of my classes, and Mike, he noticed those, especially my brain class, right, neurological stuff and all that. And I just think it was interesting when you would tell me that you would share some of what I would post to your students, and they would sort of react with it. I thought that was super, super cool. Um, and seriously, I don't know how any other way to say it except the fact that I think it's great how you are connected with them, not only on a professor level, but also sort of almost a friend level, right? Just deeper than a professor, for example, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's fair to say. It was a really big surprise to me that you took a neuroscience class.
Mhm.
And and when you started taking their vlog equipment into that class and you'd have like this is today's lecture or whatever, I
Yep.
got into this for better or worse on a habit of like hey, look what Ben's doing today.
Mhm.
And people started to notice the lecture content and ask questions and things. And the kids that from my class that I would see at the COREC, Purdue's Recreational and Wellness Center,
Yeah.
um, got interested and started following you, as you know. And it's just that's what I had always viewed, and that's what I had always done up to the pandemic was, just follow their norm and their kind of like informal guidance um, until we met each other and developed this professional relationship in terms of coaching and
Mhm.
client. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I love
yeah.
it. So me and Mike there, that conversation with your students and everything, that's a little bit ahead of our beginning, right? So I want to bring it back a little bit to where we started and everything like that, right? And so I'm actually just going to share my screen really quickly. And so, Mike, if you can see it, everybody else should be able to. Can you see that all right?
Yes, yeah,
Perfect. So this is Mike's body weight chart. Obviously, I told him I want you to log your body weight every single day, just so we're doing this in the safest, most healthiest way possible. And we just know exactly what's going on every single day, obviously every single week and every single month, right? So we first started working together the 27th of September, right? And you were around 180, 179 pounds, right?
yeah,
Um, and so you came to me obviously wanting to lose a little bit of the excess body fat, right? And so I said, okay, let's get you on a calorie deficit, right? Eating less than you are burning marginally, so we do it in the safest way possible. And you reacted pretty well, right? Of course, um, that might take too long to zoom it in, but of course, in the beginning, it was just a little bit rocky, right? You have to get used to the deficit and everything that I want you to start doing. But after you got used to it, as you guys and everyone else can see, started going down very, very perfectly. And I think that's a great word for it because seriously, in a calorie deficit to lose weight, you want to be aiming at about a pound to a pound and a half per week. And that's what you were doing, right? It was going very, very smoothly. And I love to see it. And as I said, it was a little bit rocky, but then you got it and it started flowing very, very easily, right? And then we got to a point, as you can see in February, so that's this year, you got down 166, 165, and then you wanted to start going back up. Right, we got leaner, and now you said, I want to blow up my chest a little bit. I want to see some bigger arms. I want to see some bigger legs, a little bit bigger back and shoulders, right? Obviously, every muscle group. And so, right then and there, that's when I put you on a small surplus, right? And then we started getting everything rolling. And by that time, you obviously knew how to just easily make that switch from a deficit to a surplus, right?
yeah.
And then obviously you went straight back up very, very slowly, minimizing fat gain, but gaining that muscle and strength very slowly, right? So my question that I'm leading up to is how did it feel to have structure right from the beginning, right? I know before you were very in the fitness industry world and staying fit, staying healthy, but when starting to work with me, how did it feel to just have structure, know exactly what you need to eat, what you need to do, and know that it was going to work?
This probably highlights your earlier question about the value of nutrition instruction. One of the common things that, as you know, came up in your early M&M groups and continues to come up with everybody that's looking for a fitness coach is once they get on a diet plan, and by diet I don't mean reduction or gain, I mean just a nutrition plan.
Yep.
The common complaint is, wow, that's a lot more than I thought I was going to have to eat. And it takes a while to get used to that. And this is, for me, this probably turned out to be the number one highest beneficial aspect of our relationship is when you taught me about surplus,
Yeah.
how much protein to take on in order to build muscle, and how to drop that weight that I had picked up over the pandemic. And then once that was done, then we switched, to it wasn't a bulk because the truth is I'm not a massive bulk fan. I just don't get that concept that most of these bodybuilder guys have with regard to just a massive bulk. But you really preach to use a passion word to show your passion for the material, a lean bulk. And that's the other concept you have to get. You have to get comfortable with eating, and you have to get kind of like a mindset locked in on that, so that you're not constantly worrying about I'm going to weigh too much or I'm not going to weigh enough or et cetera. It becomes a new habit, and that was the key thing that I think the key significant difference. There were a couple other issues that came up, like we've gone through a couple of different kind of splits
Hmm.
as I've learned to adapt and to grow. But nutrition and taking on mastering a calorie surplus, a deficit at first and a calorie surplus second is probably the highest and most important thing.
Right.
And that's why coaching is important, because you can have gym buddies, and it's great to mess around and who's going to do more reps and the whole camaraderie thing.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more to learn, at least these days, in learning how to be productive and how to show some gains. Yeah.
Right. And I think you're totally right about trying to do it on your own and with your friends and people like that, but also having a coach. And I think the biggest part about being a fitness coach and having a fitness coach is the accountability aspect. Yes, you can get most of this information as a regular lifter, right? To gain muscle or to lose body fat. You can get that information from the internet, right? It's all free. You can find it somehow, right? But
Yeah.
with a coach, they're able to use this information and implement it to your specific lifestyle, obviously schedule and things like that, right? And I think that is the beauty of having and being a fitness coach, being able to implement it to a personal situation and not just general knowledge, right? It's two different things
Exactly.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
And also, of course, the accountability aspect, right? Yes, you can get the information. Yes, you can be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what a calorie deficit is. I know what protein to eat. I know correct form on all these different exercises, right? But sometimes for people, when it comes down to it, they know what to do, but they don't get it done because they have a horrible mindset about it, right? But having a fitness coach, they keep you accountable, keep you consistent, and if you have any hiccups along the way, they know how to make those adjustments, and you keep moving forward no matter what, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was great. That was a great explanation. Another thing I wanted to talk about with you is you're not just a hard gainer, like you said. You're not just about muscle gain, right? You love cardio. You love running. You love boxing. You love rowing, elliptical. No matter what the activity is, you like it, right? Because I think it just pushes you in a different way than lifting does. So I just wanted you to tell us a little bit about your past and a little bit of your current experience with running now. And then I have a follow-up question.
Okay. I actually never participated in because I have a high school but not a college wrestling background.
Yeah.
And in college I was kind of like 220% invested in going to school, and I still went to the gym, but there wasn't much, time for beyond that. Where am I going here? But I've always wanted to keep busy,
Mm-hmm.
if that's the right,
Okay.
yeah, there's a balance that's important between cardio and between actual exercise.
Yeah.
There's a balance between your nutrition input, particularly what you burn and what you take in. And it's kind of like a juggling thing. And for me personally, cardio is the one independent factor that can influence everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you know, what I brought to our common table when I joined up with you was my passion for rowing. And that's because the people that I had always worked out with, they used to do 5, 10, 15 minutes of rowing just to get the blood moving and to get warmed up. And it's just the general pre-workout warm up. And that was interesting. But so in the beginning, I did a lot of rowing, as you know. Okay. Uh, Running is kind of like a step up, maybe two steps up.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of cardio, but for me, it's much more important because it's heart health.
Hmm.
It's my breathing reserve. It's it modulates or controls or regulates, whatever word you want to use, how much effort I can put into a workout. And if you're known for anything, you're the coach that the key term is intensity. And good cardio is really important to having an intense and complete workout because you just don't run out of gas
Hmm.
in the middle of doing a drop set or whatever you're doing.
Right.
So I'm answering your question.
Yeah.
But on top of that, I get bored. And so, I mean, I run, but to get up and say I have to run today is just like, oh, I'm alive today. It's not a big thing.
Very true.
So early on, in addition to rowing, when I learned that I had to boost my what I burnt, and then I had to at some points I had to boost what I was taking in. Um, I started to do some interval stuff, or it's more series stuff. It's not real hit work, but I'm by no means a fighter. I mean, take a look. But boxing is good because, man, it really, I mean, you put in like 150% on the smallest activities.
Right.
And we have this program in our rehab where the people that have Parkinson's disease do boxing. And so all of that equipment and all of that know-how was there. And it's something that I really got involved in. And actually for a while I got away from it because I just went head over heels when we went to some of our splits.
Yeah.
Um, I'm hoping to get back to it because that kind of serial intense work where you're really build up and then you step back and you really build up again, it's beneficial.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And so the thing that I was building up to and why I asked you about the past cardio that you've done is how we've been able to balance cardio, balance your love of running, and of course all other cardio activities with gaining muscle, right? Because I know there are tons and tons of people on Instagram right now hating jogging. They're like, why would you go for a jog? It disrupts muscle gain. Go sprinting. And while I agree, right, yes, sprinting is going to be better for muscle growth, and that running might inhibit muscle growth a little bit. If you're not a 100% bodybuilder, we don't need to worry about, I mean, how marginal the effects of running is going to have on muscle gain. I hate that stigma is going around so much. It angers me because we're not all going to be crazy, crazy bodybuilders, right? I mean, if you are, go ahead, that's your thing. But at the same time, if you want to look good, if you want to feel good, yes, do sprints, but also go for a run. It feels amazing. Like you said, the heart health, the heart benefits from running is amazing, right? And so, my main point is, how do you feel we've done balancing running and muscle gain and everything we've been doing together?
Well, that's a key issue because, and you've just pointed out two things that to me are really important. One, if you don't have a coach or someone you can interact with, certainly in the internet, you're going to get lost in fitness information. But like you said, it's highly structured for somebody that wants to really be a junior or a real bodybuilder.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's not going to match the vast majority of people that I know that work in terms of fitness.
Yeah.
The most interesting thing that's happened and the benefit of having a coach or you as a coach in either case is that you learn how through your experiences as a soccer player, as a college athlete,
Mhm.
which is in my book is a good way to get through college, and you blended the two to the point where I can pursue a passion, something that has tremendous benefit for me inside and outside of fitness. It's the way I clear my head and lose all my stress every day. Okay. But on top of that, you've shown me how it fits in because I've had to learn, gee, Mike, are you a moron? The same day you're doing leg workout, you want to run 6 miles? There's no way.
Right.
Or, just all of those things that come up. And it's like, and I know I'm not now, I'm not the only one because like Matt, another one of our, our common friends in the group,
Yep.
same thing in terms of like running. Man, I got to cut my distance back on workout days for legs.
Right.
So, but this is the benefit of having a coach and being able to pursue a cardio that's a passion for you, because I've learned how I have to adapt and modify that on certain days based on the split I'm doing or based on the nutritional levels that I'm at
Right.
or any number of variables that have come up over time.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
I think we've
And
gone. Go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I was just going to say that isn't something that looking on the internet is ever going to tell you. And it is miles away of what you and a gym rat bro are going to talk about when you're working out. Because they don't want to field questions the whole time. They want to, it's kind of like two people are having competition almost.
Yeah.
So it's a highlight to coaching, but I have really learned more in our relationship about the impact of running and in the beginning, the impact of rowing on everything else that I do in terms of fitness and nutrition and how it fits in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
seriously, yeah. I think we've done a great job of simply put balancing the two together, right? Running
exactly.
and muscle gain. We've been able to do it very, very well. And I want to say the fact that what you've been doing is mind-boggling. You have been running every day, no matter if that's 3 miles at the least, right? Or even
Yeah.
8 miles sometimes, which is absurd. I think you told me, correct me if I'm wrong, I think last week or yeah, I think last week you told me you ran 3 miles at 6:16 pace, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Insane. I saw that. I can't even do that. My fastest 3 mile pace right now is 6:39. And so
Yeah.
I saw 6:16. I was questioning myself. I said, how is he doing this? I thought it was crazy. And so my point is, if you guys watching, of course, have a love for cardio, right? I know some people do, some people don't. But it is possible to combine the two, right? Muscle
Yep.
building, creating a great physique, that's actually going to help, right? Having more muscle, being stronger, more confident is obviously going to help, in addition to obviously keeping up with that running and cardio that you enjoy, right? I think we've done a great job of balancing the two, right? And so that was balancing muscle building and cardio activities. Now I want to talk a little bit about balancing the work we've done and everything else going on in your life, right? Being a physician, being a professor, and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do you feel I was able to step in and help make sort of the fitness world easier for you while having such a busy schedule?
Um, in the beginning, to be frank,
Yeah.
was something that I welcomed several hundreds of percents.
Hmm.
And it's something that quickly my office staff was like, how much time are you going to invest in this? And I don't know if you remember that I would make offhand comments
Hmm.
about that. And then when the students became, like, hey, what's going on? Are you back in the gym? And we saw you over there. And, when that started to, it just kind of like pushed everything forward. Um, Again, I think what has happened is and I've said to this to you privately and you've shared it at times in the past, you put the wind back in my sails. I can't emphasize and I don't want to get negative, but I can't emphasize what the COVID pandemic did to everybody, particularly the caregivers. And I felt kind of beat down, and to not only to resume this lifelong passion that I had, but as you know, it has become a lot more intense.
Right.
And I've been able to pursue things as you and I have learned, and I follow the number one golden rule you have, and that's trust your body and react to what your body's telling you.
Right.
Um, so I don't know. It's the benefits are definitely much stronger than the actual fitness results that you get from me,
True.
because I have to be disciplined, okay? And I was fitness disciplined, but I've learned a new kind of fitness. But the discipline I have for my practice, the difference that my patients come first, um, that really feeds into the same discipline that you try and teach and expect in what you call consistency.
Right.
So it's kind of been hand in hand, but I think you've enhanced it so much because it's instead of one area of my life being the overwhelming priority, things kind of went back into balance, and I've got time for me now and to, when people call me Doc Mike. So,
Right, right,
yeah,
right. I also want to talk a little bit about just how everyone noticed these differences with you. Not even you talking about, yeah, I'm back in the gym, I have a coach. You didn't even say that in the beginning, right? But I remember you telling me that your students in the classroom started to notice a little bit of behavioral changes from you, so to say, right? In terms of being a little bit more happy or a little bit more upbeat. Is that correct?
yeah, definitely. And, I'm not going to claim being burned out, but I will claim a fair amount of we were just pounded. We were pounded for like 2.5, 3 years. Um, uh, um, I'll just share one thing. I have a unit that has 33 double beds. In a period of 10 days, I lost everybody on that unit except two people. Uh, so, and this isn't anything that was happening to people that are more conscientious than me,
Yeah.
to believe, or less conscientious than me, but it was they just noticed that I was alive again,
Yeah.
and that's the truth. You were a part of that. You weren't. I
True.
don't mean this negatively. You weren't 100%,
Of course.
but I got back. I feel like I've not only, as you said a couple weeks ago, when we changed splits again, because I keep wanting to move, keep being psyched up. Um, you said essentially, I don't know how to put this. I don't know. Anyway, it's behind me.
Right.
That
Right.
yeah, things
Forward.
have changed, and now it's like there's a new horizon out there to look at, and that horizon has been occupied with so much of your advice. Like everybody starts out with PPLs or whatever, and now I'm up to every time you say, "Hey, that's something I do," it's like, "Whoa, we're in the big leagues."
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly, and that's what they noticed in addition to who's this person that keeps showing up, like I'll show a slide of you like in brain class, or or you're doing something that you posted about, uh he's got the equation down for surplus.
Right. Right.
And oh, here it comes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah,
I think you hit it perfectly. It was a combination between obviously getting out of that difficult COVID period, right? But then
yeah,
also um, being able to set new goals for yourself working with me, if that makes sense, right? I
yeah,
know after COVID, you wanted to get back to where you used to be, right? And that was your new goal. That was just what you wanted to get back to. But then after working with me for a couple of months, we were able to surpass that. And then I think something in your mind switched and you told yourself like, if I'm this far, much further from where I thought I could be or wanted to be, how far can I truly go from now? You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
how
yeah,
far can I truly push myself? Um, and seriously, yeah, just see how far you can take yourself. What more can you accomplish? What more can you set for yourself and potentially achieve? I think you just realize that there truly are no limits, and that I think you are the complete representation of age is just a number, right? At 72 years old, what you have been able to accomplish
he's
is
62.
crazy, crazy. I think it is nuts. And so, I mean, seriously, remind me the DEXA scans that you have been able to get as we've been doing this journey and what we've been able to accomplish, right? How much fat we've lost, but also muscle gain in the process.
Yeah. Well, with my background, there's no way I'm going to invest this much time as much time as I devote to it and as much as I look forward to it every day, and a lot of days more than having to do a day's work. So you're right. I've been high on the measurement side. Um, I'm lucky at Purdue and at various athletic facilities. There are opportunities to get body composition scans that are essentially a sub-use of another kind of medical test that we use for several whole body scans. Um, and so I've done four, and we've worked a little bit over 10 months, maybe a little bit longer than that. And the information for me has been reinforcing, and has actually been gold. And this gets back to what you just said 1,000,000% better than I did. I think you noticed early on that I had left the pandemic behind, and I didn't say I had, but I got caught up in your ability to inspire, which gets back to why you were selected in the first place, just your interaction with people. When it wasn't out of boredom that I wanted to change a split, but and I know you had to pull some teeth in the beginning to get me to like listen to what your body says,
Mhm.
but like at certain points when I wanted to like up the game, you've been there, the cheerleader and coach.
Right.
And I think you noticed I had left things behind. And when that first point came up, I got a DEXA scan, and I was amazed at, when people turn 50, and certainly by the time they're 55, particularly men, but also women have something called sarcopenia. You begin to lose muscle mass naturally. And all of us, 50, 55, 60, certainly by 60 and 65, also kidneys start to subtly and quietly decline. Okay. I got my first body composition back, and it it blew my mind in two ways. One, my body fat, and again, I've told you a million times I was a hard gainer, but my body fat was so close to where I was like back in wrestling and in college. But what was more important is medically we know that muscle mass in an adult male 60 years or older is usually about 35% of body weight. Well, my first DEXA scan was 45.6. And this was when I just had been pushing, but I wanted some real information. Not that you required something that detailed, but I remember you were interested in it too, because you've had questions along the way. And so long and short of it is, I've been using it a couple times to not only measure how I'm doing, but to make findings like I really haven't lost any mass. All we've done, all you've done for me is point me in a profitable, growth laden direction, for gaining some muscle. And I just consider myself health wise at 72. And I certainly don't mean this at bragging, but I don't have age related muscle loss. I'm not taking a single prescription yet.
Hmm.
One of the key things that we haven't even talked about is that you don't only push fitness, you push a triad of what's necessary in order to be healthy, and that is the fitness, the nutrition, and the sleep. And more than anything I know as a physician about blood pressure, a full night's sleep is the difference between having elevated or stage one hypertension and having a regular blood pressure. So it's been interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say what my body fat is because it doesn't sound right. And you don't need to either, but yeah, uh, it's a miracle.
Seriously, the one phrase that comes to my mind is just mind-boggling, right? I know you are 72 years old, but you do not act like it. You do not show it. Every single day you are pushing yourself, working harder than ever before, and I think it is
Yeah.
insane what you've been able to do. It inspires me. It gets me excited to look forward and see what I'm doing now and how I can start implementing things now so that when I do get to my later years, right, I gotta still keep up with it and then I can hopefully be even close to you, somewhere even close to you, I hope, right? Because I don't even know what you've been able to do is insane. Running that much, building muscle, teaching me along the way. Another thing I wanted to bring up is how much you've been able to help me, right? Like I said, you were my first client ever. As I was coaching you, you were sort of coaching me how to be a better coach, right?
Yeah.
And knowing what questions to ask. Another big thing that you also said was listening to your body. I think that's huge for coaches now. Obviously, you are a coach, you know a ton of things, but obviously, you don't know every single person and what's going on with their body. And so, with that, you have to sort of point them in the right direction, but also ask them how they feel and make sure that everything is moving okay with their
Yeah,
specific body, right? And so,
yeah,
you've been able to help me so much. I would not be here where I am today without you. And so, with that, that's why I want to keep you on legacy or in legacy fitness coaching as long as I can have you, right? Because you add value, oh, so much value to my coaching business, teaching me while also stepping in when I have those lessons on our group meetings and adding so much valuable information that I didn't even know, right? But of course, you are a very smart man,
yeah.
and being able to add those comments like that just helps me so much. So seriously, I can't thank you enough, guys. Seriously, what Michael has done is absurd, and I hope you guys are inspired by him just like he's inspiring me and everyone else inside Legacy Fitness Coaching. Mike, do you have any questions you would like to ask me before we start concluding this video here?
No, let me just say though
Yeah.
that what we've shared is specific and it's been kind of targeted for you, but in one sense it's nothing different than what I'm doing with the first and second year kids, particularly when we walk around the hospital. And today we're going to learn how to approach this situation. What tests do you apply? And so what you and I have talked about and what has turned out, I think, to be valuable is just I've been able to share patient care. You have, quote, client care, a different level of responsibility, but it's the same model. And so I'm happy to pass on my experience. And I think, you're just another one of the kids that sits on the other side of the desk from me in a lot of ways. Yeah. So, and it doesn't mean treat you any less as a coach, but I think that's how it's evolved. And that's a special part that I hope other people can find. And indeed, we have other clients that you and I know that have their points of connection with you also. Yeah.
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 Appreciate it so much, Mike. I can't thank you enough. Guys, like I said, Michael is literally the living representation of age is just a number, right? And you have to believe that. And he obviously should be inspiring you and motivating you in that aspect. So, Mike, thank you so much for answering all these questions, explaining your situation and experiences, working with me one on one. Thank you,
Yeah.
bro.
Yep. Thank you, Ben.